Hey, Robert, I want to welcome you to the summit. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. And I'm glad that you're here to talk about something that I think a lot of speakers um, are now becoming more familiar with and starting to count it as a stage. Because prior, in years past, the only stage you counted was the one live with people in the chairs, right? But 2020 came along and introduced us to something called Zoom and podcasting and all these other things that requires to have a microphone, a camera, and some LED lights in the background, right? And all of those things are what make us show up a little bit better on camera. And that's what I wanted you to talk about because I see you on Instagram doing your on LinkedIn, doing your LinkedIn lives regularly. And I was like, yo, this would be a great topic because I think it's an underestimated stage. It's an infinite stage, which is video posted to social media. So I wanted to bring you on to talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage, Robert Kennedy the Third. Now, that was really important. I'm gonna tell you
Yes, it
why.
was.
Let me tell you why that was important because I didn't know about
Yeah.
that. I didn't even know that was possible. So right off the bat, you already done hit us with something that's like, oh yeah, you're gonna introduce yourself. It tell the people how you want to be introduced.
Yes.
That's a big point. Like come to the
Yes.
stage how you want to come to the stage. It's okay to be a producer because I would
Hmm.
have never. I don't even know how to do that. So let me get my note taker to make sure I'm taking some notes on how
Yeah.
I can
Yeah. I
how I
mean,
can
look at this
show up a
guy right
lot better.
here. Look at this guy right here. Come on. Yeah. So,
You got the mattress, dude. That's the little sheep you count when you go to sleep.
yeah. Yeah. So, let me, I think the first point that I want to make with that is as speakers, we show up on stage in a certain way, right? We get introduced, especially if we're at a big conference and they play music, we kind of do a little dance, we come on stage, we wave hands, we high five people, etc. And then we get online and we don't do the same thing. It's just kind of, oh, hi, let me wait to see if people come in the room, right? When you're doing a live stream, let me see if 3 or 4 or 5 people are gonna, and then it's just kind of this dead space, and you don't have, or you have not been intentional about the same energy, because there's a reason that people enjoy what you do. Yes, there's the content, but some of what connects with people is the energy that you bring when you're on stage. So your online, your live stream, your video, that's a stage as well. So how can you bring that connection, bring that energy to people on the stage? So I like to think of my online stage as it's a different stage, but I want to connect with people the same way that I do in person.
All right, guys, that's it. That's all we needed to hear from today. This was incredible already. We can stop right there. It already changed
Yeah.
what I was doing, man. This is no, that's a really good point. I think the trying to make virtual events or virtual sessions feel as if you're in that person's live presence is
Yep.
really important.
Yep.
Yeah. So, how did you get into doing the online thing? Was it because of the shutdown, or were you doing it prior to that?
So I was doing online things prior to. So I did my first podcast in about 2011. And I did my first podcast on Google Hangouts. So I got some Chris Brogan, I had Tom Ziegler, I got some pretty known people
Mhm.
to come sit and have a conversation with this unknown dude, because I was doing a video podcast. This was before video podcasts were video podcasts. Everybody was doing, they were doing, there wasn't even Spotify then. It was Apple, it was iTunes. That was the only place that you added podcasts. But I decided that I wanted to do a video podcast and do production with it and have an introductory stinger or a bumper at the beginning and some video stuff. Got my Final Cut Pro together and made some stuff happen, and it was, or iMovie at the time, and it was just a phenomenal experience for me. So getting on video and having that video podcast put on YouTube back then. That was the first space, or the first introductory space for me in being online in a video setting. So then I just continued to mess around with it, and I was doing virtual presentations periodically, but there weren't that many of those because we were doing in person things. Then when the pandemic happened, I lost a bunch of speaking gigs like in 2 days. I probably
Wow.
my revenue swing was probably $80,000 in a matter of 2 days, right? And so I needed to figure out what I was doing next. And so the first thing that I did, I recognized that my kids were home and teachers were figuring out how to start school, but none of them knew what to do. They were trying to copy, photocopy worksheets and send home to the kids. And I'm like, no, you have to be on screen with the kids. They've got to see you. If it's going to be extended, they've got to see you. So what I figured out was they didn't understand how to use Zoom. So that was my first gig once lockdown happened. I started to teach schools and teachers how to use Zoom and how to make it interesting for the kids in the classroom. So that was a big elevator for me.
Ah, so that explains the black sheep running across. You were doing kindergarten classes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, they're kids, man. You got to keep their attention, right? And so if you just have this talking head in the camera the entire time, it's easy for them to lose attention. So I leaned into, and I was in radio, but I really liked video stuff. And so I leaned into some of that. How do you keep people's attention? There's a lot of different ways. Pattern disrupts, right? I have somebody coming across the screen doing a pattern disrupt. Somebody's like, oh, okay, I see that. One of the other ways you do that, listen, you change the view or the angle that you're at so that it's like a movie or it's like TV, right? And you keep people's attention by doing different things. And you might be like, okay, I only have one camera. Robert's got 3. Oh, he's big time, right? I don't have that. Well, one of the things you could do, some of that is simply as, getting closer, changing your angles and moving. So if I'm sitting in this same position the entire time and I'm not animated, right? Then people don't get that human view. It's, they see just the shoulders up and they don't see the hands. I talk with my hands. A lot of us are animated. So can I have my camera at a space where people can see my hands and what I'm doing and how I articulate and enunciate and even draw shapes? I'm talking about a square or whatever. People have to be able to see that stuff. And that brings a different level of engagement to the camera.
No, I think that's incredible. And I like this. I'm gonna tell you why I like it. Because when someone sees this and they just see my background, which isn't the worst, the lights make you the star. They know who the star of this conversation is, right? Oh, that's just Ron, but who is that dude with all the lights and the neon books? And he says he's on air and he had 8 cameras moving around. Who is this? I want to see what made him that interesting. So that makes a good point. The setting tells part of the story also.
Right. It does. It does. I mean, so the setting and for me, the setting it's telling a story. But if I think about a branding perspective, right? If I think about something from a branding perspective, there are things that I'm doing in my background that are subtly getting across the idea of my business, right? So you're looking on this side and you're seeing some books in the background, right? So a lot of speakers do that. They put their books in the background. Is my guy dancing on screen? Let me get him off. Okay.
That look like me getting out the shower over there, man.
I know. I got a tiger. Where's my tiger? There we go. Come on, dude. All right. So I've got books in the background that really that are books that I've written, right? So that's kind of personal branding. But the other thing is you're looking at me on camera, and every time you see me, you said you see me on LinkedIn. How do you know it's me outside of the fact that it's Robert? Are there things that you subtly see to indicate that, yeah, that's Robert? Tell me, is there anything that you see?
I see you. That's the main thing. And then you have, I think like here you can't do it, but there's usually this live thing right?
Hmm.
And you have the branding on the top of the video.
Yep. But even after that, like if you're looking at me right now, are there things that you see that indicate that it's Robert? I'm gonna give you a
Mm,
hint.
the orange microphone. No, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody else has a black microphone cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
I've got an orange microphone. And so here's why that's important. I, I've got brand colors. My brand colors are blue and orange. So my background indicates that my lights are blue and orange,
mhm,
right? I typically on camera, I'm wearing blue and or orange, right? My microphone is blue and orange. Why is that important for me? Because when I was coming up with my brand identity, we did some color psychology, and blue is representative of trust,
mhm.
and orange represents enthusiasm or energy, because that's what I want to transmit to people. And so I believe I do that verbally. I do that with my body. I do that with my energy. I transmit that, but I also want to do it visually. So I do that subtly, subconsciously, unconsciously, subliminally with everything that is in my screen. So it's not just about sitting on camera. Are there messages that you can share simply by how you show up and what you have showing up with you?
No, it makes sense. Now that we mentioned the orange microphone, now I see the orange in the seat. Everything starts popping out. It's kind of like that, what
Yep.
they call it, the reticular activation, right?
Yep.
If you
Yep.
ask someone, how many red cars did you see today? They're like, I don't know. Then you say, okay,
Yep.
on the way home, count how many red cars you see. All of a sudden, they see all the red cars.
Yep.
So I,
Absolutely.
I totally get it. I want to, this is interesting because you're not just treating it as a Zoom. You're saying, I have a set. Like just like when you see, we know Family Feud because the Family Feud set has been the same for 50 years. Now they've added digital screens, but the basic set of Family Feud is Family Feud. Jeopardy is still Jeopardy, right? The Price is Right. They changed the people. It's still The Price is Right.
Yep. Yep. And so I mean, if we think about that in our lives, yeah, Price is Right is still the same, Jeopardy's still the same, Family Feud is still the same. Not just the way that they look, but the colors
Mhm.
are the same. They've kept the color schemes, right? Think about if you went into the store and you decided you were looking for Coca-Cola and you saw a purple Coca-Cola bottle. People freak out because they're looking for the red Coca. Okay, I don't trust that one. It's purple. That's like a bootleg Coca-Cola, right? So,
Mhm.
so the colors that we use and the consistency of it, the brand that we bring, is another measure of developing or engendering confidence and trust with our audience, right? And so, if I'm just doing it the way that everybody else does it, if I'm just blending in with everybody else, right? Or if I have something on screen and I'm wearing something different every day, and then I've got a logo and I change the color of my logo every day, and people are like, okay, yeah, I don't know. They're not certain. They may not say it with their mouth, but their pocketbooks will tell you, because they don't know what's going to be different and if you're going to deliver the same quality every time, because you're just changing all sorts of stuff.
No, that totally makes sense. I'm sitting there, dude. So many things are going through my brain right now. Like I was joking with one of the other in one of the other sessions. I said I did this summit for me. Like these are
Yeah.
all the people I wanted to learn stuff from, and y'all have been disappointed because I'm like, okay, you know, if I was just starting out and I
Hmm.
don't have the three cameras, I don't know. I haven't written any books. I
Right.
don't know where to go get the lighting and all of that stuff because I don't have the space. What are some of the basics that the beginner can do to
Yeah.
just appear better?
Yeah. So one of the things that a lot of people freak out about is, okay, Robert, your camera is, it's a mirrorless camera, the quality is different, etc. And you use what you have when you're starting out, right? If all you have is your computer, then use that. What is crucial for people is not so much the camera, but it's the lighting. So I had this camera right here. I have it on my desk right now. It's a Logitech C920 camera, right? And a lot of you probably seen this. A lot of people have these cameras on their computer. So during the beginning of the pandemic, I had this on my computer, and that's what I was using. And one day, so the way my office is set up, my office right here, my home studio is not like a big room. It may be 110 square feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've got a big window in the front, and the window was open, and I was doing this show, and everybody came on in the comments. They're like, "Oh my gosh, what camera are you using? Oh my god, that camera is crispy. What camera are you using?" And I'm looking like, dude, it's this the same Logitech C920 that I was using yesterday. Next day, I come back to do a show, and nobody's saying the same thing. Nobody's talking about my camera, and I go back and I look at the replay on both of them, and I recognize that it's different. I didn't figure out immediately, but it was later on that I figured out what happened was the day that I was recording that it looked clear to everybody, the sun hit my room at the perfect angle, and it activated the high definition lenses in my camera in a specific way. Right? And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's the lighting." But I can't depend on the sun to be perfect every day. So I got blackout curtains in my room, and I got lights so that when I come, my lighting is the same every time. So if somebody's starting out, that's one of the things that I want to recommend. Either if you don't have money to get blackout curtains or something else, and you're using natural lighting, be aware of the time that you're recording. Be aware if you're recording at 8 o'clock in the morning and that's the lighting that's working for you, especially if you've adjusted the desk, be aware of that. Don't record at 8 and then 1 and then 10 and then 9:30 and then wonder. That's a part of the consistency as well. So you want to have that consistent brand. Second thing, so that's lighting. Second thing is your audio. Your audio is important. People may be able to tolerate bad video, but they're not going to tolerate bad audio because they can't hear you if it's glitchy. So you want to have audio that's pleasing and pleasant to listen to. Get rid of the echoes in the background if you can. And one of the best ways to do that is I recommend getting a dynamic microphone. So typically there are two types of microphones. One is dynamic, the other is condenser. Condenser microphones are microphones that you don't have to have in shot. They'll pick up sound from a little bit further away from you. Pros, that you can hold it further away from you, it'll pick up sound a bit better. Cons, it's going to pick up all the other stuff in the room. So when the landscaper comes and they're mowing outside the window, your audience is going to hear that. When the cat or the dog is barking and runs by your door and the kids do all sorts of stuff, your audience is going to hear all of that. That's a condenser microphone. So microphones like a Yeti. If you've got a Yeti microphone, that is a condenser. And it's got different patterns on the back, so you could switch the pickup patterns. But that is a condenser microphone. A dynamic microphone is like this, which is a Shure SM7B. And I don't know what mic you have. It looks like an RE microphone. I'm not sure.
Audio Technica AT2020.
Yeah, right. That's a beautiful microphone. That is a dynamic microphone also. All right. All right. So here's the thing. I'm gonna get up for just a second. So when I started to really get serious about up-leveling my game a little bit, my first microphone after my Yeti that I got was this. This is a Samson Q2U, and this is comparable in sound to the Audio Technica AT2020. Mm-hmm. And this microphone was $40-something at the time. You can get them for like $60 now. Yep. USB microphone, but the sound is it's beautiful, right?
It's what people sing with, right? It's like a vocal microphone for singing a lot of times.
No, well, people don't. I guess you
like
could,
when you go to like computer. when you see like people doing karaoke or concerts, they usually have those types of mics. I thought.
Yeah, it looks like this, but this microphone is better than like the karaoke mics. This is a dynamic microphone, and dynamic means it sounds really good when you have it closer to your mic, to your mouth.
Yep.
And because you have it close, the background noises are not going to be picked up like that. The pickup field is a bit closer. So this is a relatively inexpensive mic that you can get, and it's USB, so you can plug it right into your computer. You don't need an audio interface. You don't need to pass it through anything else, mixing board, whatever. You can just plug it right into your computer.
Okay.
and it works. So your lighting, your audio, and start with what you have on video. But if you don't have a video camera or a mirrorless or DSLR camera, your phone, dude, is cameras are phenomenal on these, and a lot of phones these days, iPhone, Samsung, you can plug them in, and there are little apps that will allow you to use them as webcams.
No, 100%. No, I get it. I I think the microphone thing is one of the more surprising ones that
Hmm.
I don't think people really understand, right? And they think that they need the Breakfast Club mic, as I like to call
Yeah,
it, like the pro radio mic. And they go
yeah,
and they look at the price and they say, man, I don't want to spend $700 on a microphone, right?
yeah.
And I'm saying that because that's what I said. I'm saying, I don't want to spend $700 on a microphone. So what I ended up doing is I went and I bought like four different mics
Hmm.
and I plugged them all in and I tested them. And I found the one that I thought was best for my voice tone.
Right.
Because if you have a higher voice tone or a lower voice tone, you sound different on different microphones and how comfortable you want to be to it. So
Yep.
I think the audio thing is really important. I like how you described the difference between the dynamic and the condenser mics.
Yeah. Yeah. Super important. Super important. I think there's actually a document that I have. I during the pandemic, especially, I did several challenges. One of them was the confident on camera challenge, and we walked through some of the important things: lighting, camera, audio, and then the other thing that I walked through was background. So if you're starting out and you want to show up as professional, so it's not just about being confident, it's about showing up in a quality way so that your audience sees you as an authority, as they see you as an expert, and that you care about the details of your environment, right? So if I'm showing up and I'm just in some random place, I'm at the dinner table and, I've got animals running behind and the windows open and I see, police cars driving by and all sorts of stuff. That's not an intentional environment. If I'm a business person and I'm careful or I care about my business, then I'm going to set something up. I'm going to set up my marketplace. I'm going to set up my stage in a way that continues to grow trust with that audience. And so be intentional about that. Maybe you don't have the money to buy a set, right? And buy specific lights and accents for your room. But so start out with a room where there's a flat wall, and then if you can add a picture or a piece of art that stays and that's your place that you start out with, you get your microphone, you get your phone, and you get your proper lighting, start there. That's a really good place to start, right? If you look at my background here, I've got a brown log cabin type of approach, right? And that's kind of behind my bookcases. That's a photography backdrop, right? It's a photography backdrop that I bought on Amazon for $40. Right? And I use it because I didn't like the virtual backgrounds that everybody was coming. Then you move and then you got the halo effect and your ears are cut off and all sorts of stuff. I wanted to have some depth. I wanted to make sure that when I got my camera, I got a little bit of blur, I got a bit of depth of field and utilize the space that I had. So a photography backdrop, which doesn't have to be expensive. You can get all sorts of stuff, man. And it really creates a unique to you space that nobody else is. It's like it's branding for you, man.
So we talked about equipment. One of the most frustrating things that I run into is positioning of the equipment, especially the
Hmm.
camera. Because if someone has a laptop and you're doing
Yep.
a recording with them and their laptop is lower than their head. So in the video, you see all of the ceiling,
Yeah.
right? You see everything in the ceiling and they're looking down at you like this the whole time. You're like,
Yeah.
this looks horrible, but you've invited them to be a guest. And, I used to make the mistake of not doing a pre interview with people,
Yeah.
right? So then I could kind of fix that before we actually set up the actual thing. But
Yeah.
how would you suggest that someone position themselves? What are some of the suggestions if they have a laptop with that Logitech on top of it or whatever.
Mhm.
How do they position the camera properly?
Yeah. So, first of all, eye contact is super important. You want the audience to feel like you're talking directly to them. You want
Mhm.
them to feel not just like you're talking to them, but like you're treating them with dignity and importance as well. So, looking down, if we think about this from a body language perspective, looking down at someone indicates dominance or authority over, right? So it's kind of like when I'm talking to kids, what I do is I get down on my knee so I could be face to face and eye level with them, right? And that seems to be something, and you notice their behavior changes when you're down there with them. It's kind of like, okay, oh yeah, there's like an equality or there is a respect that happens when you're there. So we want to consider the same thing on camera. So you want to be at eye level, and when I say eye level, not necessarily straight ahead, okay? And if you'll see kind of blurring happening here, but that's okay. You want to have the camera just a bit above eye level, and there are a
Mhm.
couple of reasons for that. You want to be able to look directly at your audience, but you also, if your camera is just a little bit above eye level, it forces you to open up your eyes a little bit more wide, and that just kind of gives your face a different energetic look, right? So you really want to make sure that you carry a specific energy for your audience and you create a dynamic like you're having a friendly conversation with them as every chance you get.
No, I think that that's super duper duper important, especially if you're
Yeah.
trying to connect.
Yep.
And um, I think a lot of times we don't put the emphasis on Zooms.
Yeah.
Like someone will meet with you and they'll answer in their car. You're like, dude, really?
Hmm.
like, like, like they're gonna answer while they're driving, and and like I'm gonna do the Zoom while I'm driving. I'm like, not with me. I don't
Yeah.
want to see you get into an accident. And what we're going to talk about isn't worth you risking your life trying to
Right.
keep looking down at me, right? So I totally get it, man. It's like all of these things are popping in my mind. I'm like, yeah, this is,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you
there's
know,
subtle signals that we share with people in conversation or communication. There are a lot of things that we do that indicate to the person, they may not say it out of their mouth, but it indicates how important they are to you at that particular moment.
mhm.
And so things like, even like if I'm out on a date with somebody and I've got my phone and I put my phone in the center of the table, you know, that is an indicator that they don't have 100% of me. They don't have my full attention. So what is it that
So
I can do to make sure that they know that? Yeah, yeah, exactly. So and I think there are changes in generations that may cause some different dynamic shifts, but if we really look at it, human connection is changing because of distraction, because we have not eliminated or been aware enough or been intentional about the barriers. And this thing is a barrier. So if I'm having a conversation with you or I have a meeting and you show up and you're in your car and you're driving, I know that you don't have I don't have your full attention,
yeah,
right? Especially if it's an
100%.
important conversation.
Oh, 100%. No, I think that that's cool. So that's for the beginner,
Yeah.
right? I'm kind of in the middle, right?
Yeah.
I got a decent background, could be better. I can fix it.
Mhm.
I got a decent camera, right? What could I do better now? Do I need more lighting? Because I'm gonna show people how to
Yep.
fix this. Because what
Yeah.
could I do better about where I'm at right now? Just what you're saying.
So it's not just that the lighting itself, it is the positioning of the lighting,
Okay.
right? When I first began to really invest and take care of my online setup, and I was looking at how to light myself. Lighting, um, there's this thing, there's a concept called 3 point lighting. So 3 point lighting is a light in front of you on your left, a fill light or a main light on your left or on your right, and then you're on the other side, a fill light, and then lighting behind you to create depth, right? And what I noticed was when I started out, I was using lights above me. So if I'm using lights above me, here's what that does. I get shine up here, all right? And then what that does is it casts shadows down here, right? Making me look a little bit, meaner in some cases, not as not as pleasant because there are dark circles in different spaces for me, right? So now I've got lights on either side of me, and that allows you to see the emotion, the expression, and all of it is bright. I don't have shadows on my face itself, right? So if I turn this off and I've used the light above, right? I see the light. You see the difference, right? So now I've got dark places in my face, and darkness is not a bad thing because the way that my room is set up, I've got some darkness on this side, kind of creates a little bit of character and mystery. But my facial expression, you get to see the totality of it in a specific brightness because I'm using the 3-point lighting approach.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. Because it's a lot of this stuff, and I'm like, dude, like,
Yeah.
I learned a trick the other day because I wear glasses, right?
Yep.
So I have a light in front of me, but the
Yep.
minute that I turn on the softbox, my glasses go white because of the
Yeah.
reflection, right? And one of the guys the other day, I said, dude, how do you have this perfect like light without the reflection?
Yeah.
And he took off his glasses. He didn't have any lenses in him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, I've worn, everybody knows me for my glasses, but when I record, I'm not reading anything. So I
Right.
don't need the lenses. I just need to know that I'm looking in the right direction and
Right.
I'm talking to the person. So things can be blurry. It's okay. I don't need the lenses. I would rather look better and see it blurry than
Yeah.
have that reflection. So even on me right now, I'm like, because I'm like, dude, how do you see now these lights have come in
Yeah.
because I turned up that light and I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
it's
mean,
one of those
for
things you got to figure out, I guess.
Well, for something like that, it may be just kind of adjusting the angle of it as well, right? So typically, center is 0. You want to have 3-point lighting, you want to have it 30 to 45 degrees, on each side. If you're getting a lot of reflection, then yeah, you may want to play with the angling of it and push it out just a little bit so that you can get so the light doesn't reflect in that way. So that was one of the things, especially during pandemic when everybody was home. People were like, "Yeah, go get a ring light," and everybody was getting ring light. And then you see them on camera, and they got the circles in their eyes, right? Because the ring light was right in front of them. So
Mhm.
I'm like, even if you have a ring light, unless you are, because ring lights were really made for people doing makeup tutorials so that they got close, camera was inside of the ring, and it lit their entire face evenly. But if the ring light is further away from you, you're going to get those reflections. So even if you have a ring light, move it to the side, put it at an angle so that the light flows on one side instead of directly in your eyes where it's going to get those reflections.
No, that makes sense. I get it. I totally. This has been good. What what are we missing? So we got the basics of knowing you don't need the most expensive camera.
Yeah.
You can use whatever camera you have. The most important thing with how you look is the lighting.
Yeah.
Lighting helps out a lot. The In the video you need great audio, so you want to
Hmm.
choose a what's it's not a condenser mic, but
A dynamic microphone if you can. Yep.
a dynamic microphone because that's more for more voices versus picking up ambient things.
Yep.
And use what you got.
Yep.
Use what you got. I'm trying to just summarize all of the things that I'm taking away that you were putting down. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
be interesting. That's another thing. That was like the first thing. Be
Yeah.
interesting and transfer energy when you show up. That
Yeah.
was like a big thing at the beginning. What are
Yep.
we missing?
So I think the biggest thing is the storyline here, right? Whenever you get on camera, what is it that you want people to take away? What do you want them to know or remember? A lot of times people get on and they just say, "I'm just coming on here to do blah blah blah." Okay, but you didn't really have a point. What is the thing that you want people, if you see them later on or 2 weeks later that they remember from the time that they saw you on camera or even on stage? What is that main point? What is that big idea? What is the thing that you want to take away, right? So some of what we've talked about already, I encapsulate in what I call my 5 E's for on-camera delivery.
Let's
First
walk through them.
thing is endpoint, right? What is the what do I want to happen? What is my goal for myself and that viewer? Right? What is it? What behavioral change do I want to happen? What transformation do I want to have them do I want to have happen? Endpoint, second E is entry. What is how will they remember me? How will they remember this moment? So how will I start? Is there a branding line that I use that they know or that is consistent? Right? I get online and most of my shows I get on, I say something like, "Hey y'all, welcome to the show. I'm Robert Kennedy III, RK3. That's me." That's that line that everybody knows that I say every time, and that's audio branding for me as well, right? So what's that entry point? Then of course we talked about eyes, and that is the lens, and where are your focus points? What are you looking at? And then we talked about energy, turning up the volume of who you are, and a lot of things. Have you ever watched a video of yourself and you're like, man, I thought I was more energetic than that. I thought I was bringing it, because the camera steals a lot of they say the camera what makes it, gives you, adds pounds or whatever, it steals your energy also, right? So we've got to get to the point where we intentionally turn up our volume. And that doesn't necessarily mean get louder, but it means whatever animation that you're normally using, turn that up about 5, between 5 and 10. Turn that up, because that also creates some energetic space and engagement with your audience. And you do that by recording yourself. So you record yourself just doing something how you would naturally do it. And then you record another one and just go all out and say, you know what, I'm just going to exaggerate and be ridiculous, and then find your midpoint inside some of that, right? So the energy that you bring is super important. And then the last one, the fifth E. So what did we say? We said endpoint, entry, eyes, energy, and the last one is environment, right? So the background, the space, where are you recording? What is it that you're sharing? What message are you sharing by your background and the space that you're in? So all of those are the 5 E's that I use to really evaluate the environment that I'm in, and the message that I've got to share.
No, I think that that's important, and
Yeah.
no, I think it's super duper duper important because it's things that you don't normally think about,
Yeah.
right? We do so many Zooms now. We just like, look, let me just turn on my camera and get to it. And it stops being a production after your 20th Zoom meeting for the week, right?
Right.
Because a lot of them are informal, and we forget that a podcast recording, a summit
Yeah.
recording, or something like that is just not our normal hop on a Zoom for a customer service call, right?
Right.
So I think that that's you. This is really helpful. It helped me out a lot. Is there anything we're missing outside of the 5 E's? Let me make sure I remember the 5 E's:
Let's go.
endpoint,
Yep.
entry,
Yep.
eyes,
Yep.
energy,
Yep.
environment.
Love it.
Bam!
Awesome.
Look at that.
You smart, man. You brilliant. I love it.
Anything we're missing before we let you go?
Wow. I think we covered a lot of ground today. So the whole point of this is really how to show up in a way that is connective, memorable for your audience. I think the biggest thing is to be yourself. When I say be yourself, I mean, don't try to be an influencer that you saw on TikTok. Don't try to be somebody else. Be yourself, and also be open to turning up the volume on who you are, so that people get excited because of your passion, because of your conviction, because they know that the things that you're sharing with them, the ideas and the concepts and even the products that you're sharing with them, are ideas, concepts, and products that you honestly believe in. You're not just trying to slip something by them. You believe in it, and you believe that it's going to make a difference for their lives. So show up like you believe in it and be you.
One more question, because I know somebody's asking it or thinking it. How you
Yeah.
get that sheep on the screen?
so I mean, there are a lot of different programs. I use a program called Ecamm, and that allows me to create production overlays on screen. So I have movies. I got, let me see. I got, robots dancing. Just different things that are pattern interrupts sometimes, so that I can not just keep attention but have fun. I mean, there are times where I put stuff on screen and I'm giggling just because it's funny to me.
so,
Right?
so
But yeah, I use Ecamm as my back end. There are programs like OBS that you
mhm.
can use to do some of the same things. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself to be an introvert or an extrovert?
Myers Briggs tells me that I'm introvert, and when I train and speak for days and weeks, or even a couple of days at a time, my body tells me that I'm an introvert as well. But when I show up on stage, I show up with extrovert energy. So because I got a job to do and I want a certain result for people. So yeah, I can show up, I can have great conversation, I can hang with people, but I also need my time to recharge. So yeah,
No, that makes sense. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and to share the 5 E's with us, to tell us how to set
yeah.
up our video and our audio and everything. Also, you gave us a great intro. You can't let us
Yeah.
down with a terrible outro. So I'm gonna chew it up to you for the outro. Hopefully, you got the music and everything ready to close the
Man, we
show.
got all sorts of music ready. I don't know if we got any additional people that we can bring in just yet. Actually, no, I've got a wiggly guy. Hold on. I got me. I got me.
Hey,
I got
hey.
me. I got me. I got me.
Thanks, Robert. I really appreciate it, man. This is incredible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Love it. Love it.